1 minute ago, molten rock breached the frozen summit of Europe's largest volcano. Lava fountains surged 200 meters into winter air. The ground beneath 500,000 people began to tremble in ways it had not trembled in years. This is not just another eruption. What is happening beneath Sicily right now, and why are scientists watching this volcano more closely than they have in decades? Mount Etna rises from Sicily's eastern coastline like a geological monument to Earth's restless interior. The volcano dominates the landscape between Catania and Messina, its snow-capped summit visible from towns scattered across the island. Just 500 kilometers south of Rome, Etna stands 3,329 meters tall, its base stretching 150 kilometers in circumference. Locals call it Mongibello, the beautiful mountain, a name that carries centuries of reverence mixed with fear. This is Europe's most active volcano, a stratovolcano whose layered flanks tell stories written in ash and frozen lava. Its cultural importance runs deep, woven into Sicilian identity through generations who have lived, farmed, and died in its shadow. But what makes Etna tower over every other European volcano is more than just its height. The forces that built Mount Etna began moving 500,000 years ago. Deep beneath the Mediterranean, the African plate collides with the Eurasian plate in a grinding tectonic embrace. The African plate descends, subducting beneath Europe, and as it sinks into the mantle, it creates pathways for magma to rise. This is not the simple subduction that feeds volcanoes like Vesuvius or Stromboli. Etna sits slightly forward of the subduction zone, above a complex tectonic boundary where the Ionian microplate joins the African plate in their descent. The lighter Ionian slab may have torn, geophysicists suggest, creating a gap that pulls asthenospheric material upward like a geological vacuum. That rising material melts, feeding Etna's chambers with fresh magma from the mantle itself. For 500,000 years, this process has repeated, layer upon layer, eruption after eruption. The volcano grew from submarine vents into a towering stratovolcano, part of the Mediterranean's volcanic chain that stretches from Italy to the Aegean. The scale of Mount Etna is difficult to grasp until you see it against the human world. The volcano covers 1,190 square kilometers of Sicilian landscape. Its base circumference measures 150 kilometers, dwarfing Vesuvius, which stands only a third as tall. More than 500,000 people live directly on Etna's slopes, crammed into the red zone where evacuations become urgent when the mountain stirs. Beyond that, another 6 million residents of the greater Naples and eastern Sicily region live within reach of its ashfall and lava flows. The city of Catania sprawls just 30 kilometers from the summit, its streets and buildings pressed against the volcano's southern flank. Every morning, residents awake to the sight of Etna looming above them, a presence so constant it becomes almost invisible. Yet invisibility does not mean safety. On December 24, 2025, seismic instruments recorded a sudden increase in volcanic tremor. The change was not gradual, not the slow buildup scientists often see before eruptions. This was rapid, almost abrupt, as if something deep within the mountain had shifted without warning. INGV volcanologists monitoring the real-time data noticed the amplitude of tremor signals climbing steeply, far faster than Etna's typical pre-eruptive patterns. The tremor indicated magma moving upward through conduits, pushing through fractures, forcing its way toward the surface. Within hours, the data showed infrasound signals consistent with gas-rich magma reaching shallow depths. The speed of escalation startled even those who study Etna for a living. This was not how the mountain usually behaved, and the mountain was not finished.
Strombolian explosions began at the summit on December 26th. Jets of incandescent lava shot skyward from the northeast crater, glowing orange against the snow. By December 27th, the intensity surged. Lava fountains reached 200 meters above the crater rim, sustained and violent, ejecting pyroclastic material that rained down across the upper slopes. A massive ash plume climbed rapidly, punching through the atmosphere to altitudes exceeding 10,000 meters. The plume drifted westward, visible from hundreds of kilometers away, a dark smear across Sicily's winter sky. INGV issued a volcano observatory notice for aviation at 1846 UTC on December 24, raising the aviation color code from green to yellow. By December 27th, as explosive activity intensified, the code jumped to red, the highest level. Ash in jet engines can melt, coating turbine blades with glass, causing catastrophic failure. Airlines rerouted. Catania Fontanarossa Airport reported 75 flight delays, though no cancellations. The volcanic ash advisory from Toulouse confirmed ash clouds spreading westward at flight levels dangerous to aircraft. The message from the sky was unmistakable. The National Institute of Geophysics and Volcanology operates one of the most sophisticated volcano monitoring networks in the world. INGV volcanologists have spent decades studying Etna, installing seismometers, GPS stations, thermal cameras, and gas spectrometers across its flanks. When the December 2025 escalation began, every sensor lit up. Boris Benk, one of INGV's senior volcanologists, described the eruption as exhibiting patterns that resembled precursors to major historical events. The rapid onset, the intensity of lava fountaining, and the sudden appearance of a new vent all suggested the volcanic system was entering a phase of heightened instability. International volcanologists began watching closely. Etna's behavior serves as a natural laboratory, a case study in how stratovolcanoes transition from steady-state degassing to explosive paroxysm. If this eruption continued to escalate, it could offer rare insights into magma dynamics. But insights come at a cost, measured in anxiety and disruption. Ashfall began coating towns in northeastern Sicily. In Fiumefreddo, 20 kilometers east-northeast of the summit, residents swept gray powder from streets and balconies. Cars disappeared under layers of fine volcanic dust. In Calatabiano and Giardini Naxos, the ash thickened, turning daylight dim. Giovanni Russo, a cafe owner in Giardini Naxos, stood in his doorway watching the ash settle. "You live here long enough, you get used to it," he said, brushing powder from his sleeve. "But this time feels different. The ash came faster, heavier, and the rumble at night, it doesn't stop." His voice carried no panic, only the weariness of someone who has lived through too many eruptions to count. Daily life continued, shops stayed open, but an undercurrent of tension ran through conversations. Families checked supplies, some packed emergency bags just in case. The balance between familiarity and fear is delicate on Etna's slopes, and every eruption tests that balance again. What came next shocked even the scientists. On December 27th, a new vent opened on the upper eastern flank of the Voragine crater. Pressure from rising magma found a weak point in the volcanic edifice and punched through. The vent began spewing lava almost immediately, feeding a flow that surged eastward down the mountain. The Voragine crater had been dormant for years, its last major activity in 1998. Its sudden reactivation signaled a shift in the volcanic system's plumbing. Magma that once flowed through established conduits now found alternative pathways, fracturing rock, opening new routes to the surface. INGV scientists noted that the appearance of flank vents during explosive summit activity is rare at Etna, but not unprecedented. When it happens, it often marks the beginning of a prolonged eruptive phase, one that can last weeks or months. The mountain was transitioning into something more dangerous. Volcanic tremor levels continued rising after the vent opened. Ground deformation measurements showed swelling near the summit, detected by GPS stations and tilt meters scattered across the upper slopes. The instruments recorded microradian changes in slope angle, tiny but significant. These readings suggested magma accumulating in shallow reservoirs, inflating the mountain from within, like a balloon filling with water. The magma chamber beneath Etna sits approximately 2 to 4 kilometers below the summit, much shallower than older models predicted. As magma pushes upward, it deforms the surface, bending rock, opening fissures. Some of those fissures release gas, others open wider, allowing lava to escape. The process is unpredictable, governed by the strength of the overlying rock and the pressure building below. And pressure, once released, does not always stop cleanly. The lava flow from the new vent moved eastward, following the path of least resistance toward the Valle del Bove. This massive horseshoe-shaped depression, 5 kilometers wide and 7 kilometers long, cuts into Etna's eastern flank like a wound carved by ancient catastrophe. Around 8,000 to 10,000 years ago, Etna's summit collapsed, possibly triggered by a massive flank failure. The collapse sent rock and debris avalanching toward the coast, leaving behind a steep-walled basin that still scars the volcano today. Valle del Bove is more than a geological curiosity. It is a natural containment channel, a basin that captures lava flows and directs them away from populated areas. Towns like Catania and Jar lie to the south and east, protected by the valley's geometry. When lava flows toward the Valle del Bove, it funnels into the depression, pooling on the valley floor rather than streaming toward villages. Historical eruptions have repeatedly filled the valley with fresh lava, layering the basin floor with black basalt. The valley has saved countless lives over centuries, a geological accident that functions as a shield. But shields can fail if the pressure is high enough. Etna is one of the most monitored volcanoes on Earth. Seismic sensors detect every tremor, every shift in the magma's movement. GPS stations track ground deformation with millimeter precision. Thermal cameras capture heat signatures from active vents, measuring temperatures that exceed 1,000 degrees Celsius. Gas spectrometers analyze sulfur dioxide emissions, carbon dioxide output, and other volcanic gases that signal magma rising toward the surface. All this data feeds into INGV's operations center in real time, where volcanologists interpret the signals, searching for patterns that might predict the next phase of activity. The network allows scientists to track magma as it migrates through conduits, giving them hours or sometimes days of warning before major eruptions. This capability has transformed volcano monitoring, turning Etna into a proving ground for predictive models used worldwide. Yet, for all the technology, certainty remains elusive. As of December 29, 2025, no casualties have been reported, no major infrastructure has collapsed. The lava flows remain confined to the Valle del Bove and the upper slopes, far from the densest population centers. Local authorities maintain constant vigilance, coordinating with INGV to monitor the eruption's progression. Civil protection teams have reviewed evacuation routes, checked emergency shelters, and ensured communication networks remain operational. Sicilians have lived with Etna for millennia. They have developed protocols refined through centuries of adaptation, a cultural resilience that turns volcanic coexistence into routine. Families know which roads lead to safety, schools practice drills, hospitals stockpile supplies. The relationship between people and volcano is intimate, shaped by cycles of destruction and renewal that have repeated for generations. Etna gives as much as it takes, enriching soils with volcanic minerals, drawing tourists who marvel at its power, sustaining an economy built on fire and ash. But the question remains, how long will the eruption last? For volcanologists, this eruption represents a rare opportunity. Real-time data from an active paroxysm allows scientists to study magma dynamics, deformation patterns, and gas emission rates with unprecedented precision. Every measurement contributes to predictive models, refining algorithms that estimate eruption intensity, duration, and potential hazards. The data collected from Etna feeds into global databases used by volcano observatories from Indonesia to Iceland. Lessons learned here improve early warning systems worldwide, helping communities prepare for eruptions before they escalate. The scientific value of Etna's activity extends far beyond Sicily. It contributes to a deeper understanding of how stratovolcanoes behave, how magma ascends through complex conduit systems, and how tectonic forces shape volcanic evolution over geological timescales. Etna is not just a volcano, it is a living geological laboratory, a classroom where Earth teaches lessons written in fire. And yet, the most important lesson is one of humility.
Scientists now know more about Mount Etna than at any point in history. They understand the tectonic forces driving its activity. They can track magma movement in real time. They can measure ground deformation, gas emissions, and seismic tremor with extraordinary precision. But what they cannot do is predict when the eruption will end or whether it will escalate further. The December 2025 activity shows all the signs of a sustained eruptive phase, but whether that phase lasts days, weeks, or months remains unknown. The sudden appearance of the flank vent, the intensity of the lava fountaining, and the rapid escalation all suggest the magma system is highly pressurized. Whether that pressure will vent gradually or build toward a larger explosive event is a question without an answer. Uncertainty is the nature of volcanology. Models can estimate probabilities, but they cannot eliminate risk. The mountain moves on its own terms, governed by forces that operate on timescales and magnitudes beyond human control. Mount Etna is a living geological system, a volcano whose history spans 500,000 years and whose future remains unwritten. It has shaped Sicily's landscape, its culture, its people. It has destroyed towns and nurtured vineyards. It has killed and it has given life. The December 2025 eruption is another chapter in that long story, a reminder that the earth beneath our feet is never truly still. As lava continues to pour into the Valle del Bove, as ash drifts across the Mediterranean, as scientists monitor every tremor and every gas plume, one truth remains constant. Etna is not done. The mountain will erupt again, and again, and again, as it has for millennia. The only question is when, and how much, and whether we will be ready. What happens when the pressure beneath the mountain can no longer be contained?